Okay, cool.
Well, hey guys, let's go ahead and get started. We got a lot more that are registered that aren't here yet. They do kind of tend to trickle in a little bit later. But Jordy, we're super stoked to have you. Hi, Barb. Have a seat.
Hi.
I'll turn on this other monitor in a second so you can see that up there. Super excited to have Jordy. Jordy's got a really kind of unique background where he really kind of hit real estate running and then built a portfolio. He does flips. He's doing what a lot of people should do. And I admire his motivation and his drive, and he's got some good nuggets to share. So we're excited to have him. Anything you want to share before we kind of get going?
I love watching what Jordy's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, when Jordy and I got our licenses really close to the same time, and he was a rock star of the office, and he just keeps, putting a lot of good education out there for people as well, which is great that he loves to share what he's doing and how he's doing it. And he's definitely somebody you should follow if you aren't already.
Awesome, Jordy. I'm going to turn it over to you. You can share your screen, add any introduction that you want to that. I want to leave as much time for you as possible. We do kind of have an hour slated for this. If you guys need to check out right at 1, feel free. If we got some Q&A going, we might go a little bit longer if you're able to stick around. Our next class isn't until 1:30, where we kind of do an overview of what our unique brokerage model is all about. And that'll be on this same link here too, but we'll try and hit it as close to 1 as possible, maybe a little bit after. So Jordy, it's all you.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for the introduction. It's very flattering. I think most of us think less of ourselves just because we look at what everyone else is doing, and you're like, oh, well, this person's doing that, this person's doing that. And so it's kind of interesting hearing what other people think of you. So thank you guys for the great introduction there. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and then start my slide deck. So I'm going to first start off by just saying that I modified a previous presentation I had, but I added a lot in and was pretty vulnerable on a lot of details. So with that being the case, I'm just basically more or less sharing my story, if you will, over the past 7 years. So if you guys ever have any questions, I want this to be as interactive as possible. Please type them in the chat bar down below, or pop on, stop me at any time. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. We will have a Q&A at the end of the session, but if you want clarification right at that time, feel free to stop me. So yeah, I'm going to kind of talk about building wealth as a real estate professional today. So I'm going to just give this nice disclaimer that my attorney has highly encouraged I give. I'm not going to give any investing advice. This is all based off of, like I said, my past experience. Before investing, you should consider risks and where everyone is at in life, and do your own due diligence. So
you can tell you've done this before, Joe. You add in a disclaimer like that. I love it. So.
Yep. So here's me building wealth as a real estate professional. So I got my real estate license in 2014. Since then, I or my team has sold 450 plus homes. I honestly haven't tallied it up, but we're somewhere in the $180 million in volume range. I started as a buyer's agent in 2014 on a team. I then grew my own team up to having about 5 buyer's agents and 2 inside sales associates. So people that were just on the phone all day long, cold calling and grinding it out while everyone else was on appointments and selling houses. The last 2 years running, I've been in the Realtor Top 500 out of more than 10,000 agents here in the state of Utah. I've also spent over $800,000 renovating homes. I own about $2.5 million of real estate right now as long-term investments. That does not include anything that I'm currently fixing and flipping. I got an Icon award as an agent in my brokerage last year. It was my first year at EXP that I hit Icon status, which is a pretty prestigious award. I'll go into a little bit more later about that. And then in 2017, my wife and I, which you can see in this picture of us and our two kids, we actually bought a staging company, which she runs and technically owns. I didn't really do anything other than, we decided together, hey, this is a great avenue for her to grow. And she's actually 5x'd that business in the past 2.5 years. So she's awesome. And we're definitely got a lot of stuff going on. So I don't say any of this to brag. I just kind of say it so that you know who I am. Just a brief description, kind of like the highlight reel. I am a person too. I have my downs. It's not all ups. But the big thing with real estate is you just keep pressing forward and just keep doing everything you can. So real quick today, building wealth as a real estate professional. Kind of the things I wanted to go over, wealth building plan, a money management system, business planning, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of a local market update just because it's 2020 and it's freaking weird. And the last thing that we're gonna kind of talk about is tracking your return on investment or ROI. And you can parlay probably all of these things into a bunch of different things in your life. So this picture right here was a picture of a kitchen of a property that we fixed up. You can obviously see the top ones before, bottom ones after. So real quick, I want everyone to type in the chat bar, what is one thing that you're hoping to learn today? And I want to try to direct this to you guys so that I can add as much value as possible to you today. So let's see, I don't see the chat. How to find deals worth flipping. Okay. Anyone else? What do you guys want to learn today? How to finance those deals. Okay. Where my time should be spent to make money fast. Okay. How to get into the new home build business. Okay. Anyone else? Can you guys see the group chat thing right here on my screen?
I think everybody kind of can pull it up on their own screen, Jordy. I have it on mine. They can minimize it or make it bigger. So if you're seeing it's just on your screen.
So you're seeing my presentation. You're not seeing, because I've got the Zoom group chat thing set up. You're not seeing that.
I see it because I pulled it up on my screen, but I don't think everybody does.
Okay, we can see it. Okay.
Everybody has to click on the chat to enlarge it. So.
Yeah. Okay. What markets do you think are good honey holes? Then what's a honey hole? We can see it. What do you think the most important items are to change out when flipping a home? Starting a new home building business now. How to attract sellers and identify viable investment properties. Okay. These are all good things. Okay. I'm going to try to keep that in mind. Let's see. Good place to look for deals, Utah, Idaho, nationwide. Okay, cool, Ben, I will cover that. Ray, I will cover yours. Jeff, what do you think the most important items are to change out when flipping a home? Well, why don't we go over that real quick? Everyone type in, besides the cabinets, 3 things that we changed in these 2 pictures. What do you guys see? And while you're doing that, I'll kind of go over and answer a couple of these questions, and I'll just give you quick answers. And if you would like a more detailed answer, if we don't cover it in the presentation, I'd be happy to set up a 15-minute call with you. How to find deals worth flipping. There's a ton of different ways. I would go to what's called a RIA and network with other investors. You'll find wholesalers. You'll find people who have more deals than they know what to do with. And then I would analyze every single one of those deals, finance them a bunch of different ways. I personally use hard money loans when I'm fixing and flipping. I could pay for cash these properties, but I choose to finance with a hard money loan because my return on investment meets my goals. Where your time should be spent to make money fast. There's a lot of different places that you can make a good hourly wage. I'm gonna focus on making a good hourly wage instead of just making money fast, because you can make money fast, but you can blow it just as fast. This is more about building wealth slowly. How to get in the new home business. I would find a builder that's looking for an agent and just market to them. Okay, so let's see. Window, yep, we removed a window. Backsplash appliances, yep, appliances, backsplash flooring, floors, counter paint. Stove, added a dishwasher. Close. If you look closely, there actually was a dishwasher. We just moved it because it made more sense away from the stove so they weren't hitting each other as they opened. Floors, flooring, yeah. Light fixtures as well. Yeah, we actually can't see it in the picture, but we removed a melon light and added 4 can lights in this house, in this kitchen. Decluttered. Oh yeah. Basically, the short answer is you want to make it look like new construction on a budget. So a lot of people over improve properties when they flip them. If you guys want to get into flipping, I would look at what builders are putting in and I would put that in. So if a builder's tiling a shower or if they're putting an insert in that price range, that's probably what I would do, right? And you can do that by going and touring model homes basically for free. So we're gonna go to the next one. Cool, so my first step is you should, when establishing your wealth building plan, the first thing you should do before you do anything is track your expenses and budget your money. If you can't tell $1,000 where to go, how are you gonna tell $1 million where to go, right? We naturally as humans pretty much spend up to what we earn. Sometimes in America, I would say most times actually, people spend more than they earn, right? That's why people get in debt, credit card debt. They live above their means. So, and real estate professionals in particular are great at spending money, right? You can make a lot of money, but most agents blow everything that they make, that's not the point. The point of why most people, and I'm sure everyone else, got into real estate is to make money and keep it. So in your budget, you should make sure that you have 6 months of living expenses set aside. I can't stress how important this is, especially after having lived through this year, right? We personally, me and my wife, we had 6 months of our personal living expenses set aside. And I can't tell you the peace that it brought just every single night. Like, I didn't have to worry. I knew, well, I can go 6 months without taking a paycheck, right? Obviously, I don't want to do that, but I'm not stressing. I'm not staying up at night and having those worries. And I would keep it in a liquid savings account. It's not meant to be an investment. It's meant to be insurance, right? Even though my mind, I look at it and I go, oh my gosh, I have this money just sitting here earning, I think I earn like 0.95% in my high yield Discover savings account, right? But it makes me and my wife sleep better at night, and it takes that risk off the table, right? I don't have to worry about being foreclosed on. I don't have to worry about not having food or clothes or whatever else. The next thing you need to make sure that you're budgeting is taxes. I speak with a lot of other real estate agents, and they may make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, but they still, they get to the end of the year and they didn't save for taxes. Now all of a sudden they have an $80,000 tax bill, and they're like, "Holy cow, I don't know how I'm going to pay this." Well, set money aside for taxes, right? And then separate business and personal expenses. That's another big mistake I see a lot of real estate agents make, is they just dump it all in one account and then they just blow it, right? So setting up a business entity, setting up a business checking account and savings account, and then operating your business out of that and paying yourself a salary. That's like, this is the first thing that we all have to do, but a lot of people actually don't do it, believe it or not, in being in real estate. And even just paying yourself a salary, even though we're self-employed, a lot of us got into this business because we wanted freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of not having a job, right? And at the end of the day, we're just our own boss, right? So I see Jeff and Lynn nodding their head, right? So the best money management system is whatever you're going to use. So this right here is a blank version of the spreadsheet I use to track my spending. If you guys want a copy of this, I'll give it to you for free. Just put your email in the, how about don't put your email in there, because then I have to email everyone. Email me. I'm going to put mine in the chat box. Email me and say wealth management system or money management system in the title, and I will send you this. I literally go through at the end of every month, except for last month because I'm just a little bit behind, and we go through and we track our expenses manually. I've used Mint and I've used other money management software before. I personally like this because it forces me to go in and look at what I spent. It forces me to look at my credit card statement and go, holy cow, I spent X on clothes. Why is that? Okay, was it needed? Okay. And I at least know where my money's going, right? In addition to this, we also just use, it's totally simple, totally easy, just an Excel spreadsheet where we just kind of forecast the month in advance and say, okay, these are the bills that we have. This is what we're spending on groceries. We've got Labor Day coming up, so we're going to do a barbecue, whatever. Every month is different. So you should plan ahead, and then you should look back and see where you spent money. The first time I started doing this, it was shocking at where my money was going. And then I was like, oh, no wonder I can't save money. I've got whatever that I'm spending it on. Okay, let's trim that back. So believe it or not, a lot of people won't do that. They won't just look at their money because they feel like it's restrictive. Yet you can't grow what you don't measure, and can't measure what you don't track, right? So the next step, you should establish short and long-term goals. And I think this is relevant in anything in life, right? If you want to have a better relationship, if you want to sell more houses, if you want to buy more rental properties, you should establish what you want to do this year and a 5-10-year plan, right? Big goals, and then chunk it down into short-term goals. So this little infographic here is the Cheshire Cat. I'm sure everyone has seen this or heard it. Alice in Wonderland is walking down, she finds the Cheshire Cat, and she says, well, which road do I take? And he says, where are you going? She says, I don't know. He says, it doesn't matter. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there, right? Just like if I were to hop in my car and start driving to New York, I have to know at least the direction I want to go. And you don't necessarily have to know every single stop sign and red light you're going to hit on the way, but you need to know, hey, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going, right? So here's a couple of questions that I have personally used and recommend to my clients and friends, and just establishing these goals, because a lot of the times it's intimidating, right? You're like, well, I don't know, I just want to be wealthier. Well, okay, how much do you want in assets, right? I look at gross assets instead of like net worth or anything else, just because I want to grow my assets as much as possible. So I don't really care how much debt I have on a property, because most of the time you have to put down minimums. Your loan to values are capped by the banks, right? And if I want to get to where I'm going and I'm using real estate as a path, I want to know how much I have in assets, or how much I want to have in assets. The second question is at what age, right? This gives you a time target. And then the third one is giving what ROI. So quick little side story. I'm going to go off topic for a second. Has anyone thought about these? Type into the chat bar if you've thought about these 3 questions and how it applies to you in your life. And while you're doing that, I spoke with a great friend since I've known since high school. And we had a conversation yesterday. And he's like, hey, I want to invest. And I was like, okay, great. What are you looking to do? And he's like, well, I don't know. I just want to invest. And I'm like, okay. Well, I asked him these 3 questions, and he's like, oh, those are really good questions. I don't know. And I was like, okay, cool. Think about it so that I know how to best direct, right? Because if you just want to invest, my recommendation might be, hey, throw $100 in, an S&P index fund, and you don't have to worry about anything, right? Or my advice might be, hey, let's sell your house that you have paid for free and clear, and go spread that out into 5 different properties because you qualify for a capital gains exemption, right? Like it's different depending on where you're at and where you want to get to. So I would, if you haven't already, and it looks like a couple people have, I would definitely put in and answer these questions as part of your homework, so that you at least know where you want to get to in a given time frame. And then after that, you stick to the plan, right? So this is a very simplified wealth building plan, 3 steps. First is figure out where you're at, and I would do that for at least 6 months, and then establish goals, and then stick to it, right? So there's a great quote here by Tony Robbins. What we can or cannot do, what we consider a possible or impossible, is rarely a function of our true capacity. It's more likely a function of our beliefs about who we are. And I think that's super true, right? A lot of the times we get in our head and we just think like, hey, it's not for me. So the second thing here is, one second. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, so the second thing that I have been able to do, just totally because of mentors and coaches and friends, is build multiple streams of income, right? So I had a really great friend, and he said, Jordy, you need to focus on, before you try out and try to go do all these things and jump around, like, I'm ADHD, so sure, you can probably tell as I'm talking. Before you try to go do all these things, focus on one thing and make 100 grand at it, right? 100 grand a year in your job is phenomenal as a realtor. The average realtor makes about 40 grand a year. So he said, this is what you need to do. And he was actually a coach I had. He was out of Austin, Texas. He said, look, you need to focus on selling 1 home a week. Then you need to leverage, get a transaction coordinator and then an assistant. And then you need to know what you want to focus on and go after it, right? And then there's a bunch of different ways to get there. And this applies to finding deals and finding just people to represent. Go door knock, do open houses, cold call. There's a bunch of different ways. EXP is awesome. They have a ton of training. Be at a brokerage that supports your goals. For me, I moved over to EXP about 1.5 years ago, thanks to Jeff and Lynn. And this meme over here is pretty funny, right? From Wolf of Wall Street. He says, hey, listen, I quit. This guy just told me about EXP Realty. That's pretty much exactly how I felt 1.5 years ago, because they supported my goals and where I want to go. They give me stock options when I do my first deal every year, when I hit my commission cap, when I do multiple deals after that, right? So once you've established your first stream of income, then focus on building your second, third, fourth, fifth, right? So for me, I hit 100,000 as an agent, right? And I made sure I was consistent a few years in a row. And I also made sure I lived on less than 100,000 a year so I could invest the difference, right? Let's see here. A little bit more about my story. I was at Keller Williams for 5.5 years. Each year I paid my commission cap of $18,000. And for anyone that's unaware, a commission cap is, most brokerages have a split where they take 20 or 30% until you've paid them X amount. Some it's, $500 a file forever. Some it's like Keller Williams, it was $18,000. And as soon as I paid them that, I got 100% of the commission. So each year I sold 30 to 70 houses per year with my team. I taught new classes for agents. I helped and mentored new agents, just like I'm doing here. I did it all for free out of my own time. Due to me being so busy, I was always out and about. I was never in the expensive office space that I had to rent from them. However, I loved all of the training and mentorship that Keller Williams offered, and even just the friendships nationwide. I've got friends in Florida and Texas, New York, Virginia, Vermont, like nationwide. I have a network of friends that also sell real estate, and we pass referrals back and forth, right? And I was even offered ownership and the potential to buy into the franchise system at Keller Williams. So why would I ever leave, right? That's the question I asked myself. I had tons of people trying to recruit me, just never, I was always like, why? I've got everything I ever need. Really quickly, the reason I moved over, and the only reason I'm going over this, guys, is because I had a ton of agents ask me kind of on the sidelines after I moved, hey, why did you move, right? Three big reasons. One, I felt like the collaboration that I had at Keller Williams was even better at EXP because I could go and network with agents from wherever without having to leave my house. The second is the CRM. I was paying $1,000 a month for a couple different CRMs. One was Boomtown, one was Chime, one was Commissions Inc. I've used them all. I got that $1,000 a month CRM for $85 a month. So it's a no-brainer. And then on top of that, the thing that really persuaded me to come over was they give you equity in the company for just doing what I was already doing, right? So if I'm trying to build multiple income streams, why wouldn't I get something that is paying me to do what I'm already doing, right? And the big one is this Icon Agent Award. Kind of like I hit on before, they actually give me my commission cap back in stock options when you cap and then do 20 deals a year, which I've always done. So it was no brainer. And in addition to that, you can buy stock at a discount and they just give you stock for closing deals, right? Side note, this made me way more than $16,000 last year because the stock has appreciated a lot as companies are searching for growth and hedge funds are searching for growth. EXP is becoming more and more known. And this actually made me probably close to six figures over the last year, just moving over. And the crazy thing is I didn't do anything different than I've done the last 6 years in real estate. So I'll move on from that because this is not an EXP spiel. This is totally just my story. And yeah, it's been great. So now we're kind of getting to the meat. If you've established your budget, you established where you want to go, and you are working on selling houses and helping other people get what they want, you should always keep in the back of your mind that you should be your best client, right? It took me 5 years in real estate to figure this out. Jeff and Lynn had this figured out way before I did. And it obviously shows, right? So at the end of the day, why don't you guys type in if you own any properties other than your primary residence. Say yes or say no. And either one's totally okay. Like I said, I really didn't start accumulating rental properties until about 2 years ago. So this is currently my portfolio. Every one of those pictures is actually my properties. There's a ton of benefits for owning real estate. A couple, I'll just hit on the keys. There's tax benefits. You'll pay way less in taxes, especially being a real estate professional. You can leverage your money. So if you put 20% down, the bank will loan you 80%. You definitely can't do that in the stock market and go buy Tesla stock. And if you do, well, I guess there is a way, but it's way riskier, right? You keep 100% of the appreciation though. So even though it's 80% of the bank's money, if the property appreciates 30, 40, 50, $100,000, the bank doesn't come to you and say, hey, we want 80% of this appreciation, right? You get to keep that entire upside. So like this little property right down here, we bought 4 years ago, we paid 165 and it's probably worth 290 right now, right? It's phenomenal. Your tenants also pay the principal down, and then after all your expenses, you get to keep the cash flow. So like I said, my very small portfolio right here, in October, my cash flow should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,300 bucks. In addition to that, my principal is going to be reduced on all my loans by about $1,700, and that is not including my primary residence. And once properties are rented, they're pretty low maintenance, right? You may have to follow up and do an hour or two a month of just follow up on a few different properties. And by far, this is the best way to build wealth in real estate. If you're not buying properties, you're doing something wrong. Even if you bought one property a year, in 10 years, you will be so far more ahead than anyone else. Am I right? Jeff, Lynn, you guys have seen this. How many properties do you guys own? Pop in for a second.
Our portfolio at its peak was 60 properties.
Yeah.
We diversified into some commercial recently, so it's less than that now, but.
Yeah. Has anyone played Monopoly? You can type in, I've played Monopoly, or I don't know what Monopoly is in the chat bar. I'm going to go ahead and assume that I'm going to see a bunch of I played Monopolies. Yes, yes, cool. Only once a week. Yes. So basically, the whole premise in Monopoly is you go around and around and around and you buy properties, right? If you just go around and collect your 200 bucks, you're going to be the first one that loses. I promise you. If you go around and you buy properties and you buy it and buy it and buy it, and you will eventually start putting little houses on it, right? Same thing with this. You'll start buying these crappy little 1940-year built houses. It's going to appreciate. You're going to go, holy cow, I've got so much equity in this. I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to go buy, you know, this luxury nightly rental condo down in Moab that I can enjoy on weekends and off season, and it's still going to cash flow for me, right? Same thing in Monopoly. You buy these little houses, and then what do? You turn it into a big hotel, right? And then that is when you really start collecting rents, right? Same thing in real estate. You just have to start now, and you have to start buying at least one a year, okay? And it's really not that hard to do. If you are up for it, you could buy one primary residence a year and then just move out and rent that out, right? You could just save up enough for one property. Guys, everyone can buy one rental property per year. You just have to be disciplined and save money. Yes, it's really about your mindset. So, why should I invest in Utah? Since we asked some questions on fixing and flipping, what are a couple things that we did on this fix and flip other than de-junk? Why don't you guys type in the chat bar? De-junk and paint. Those are the two obvious ones. Watered the weeds. Yes, I did not landscape this. I did not spend $8,000 landscaping. I watered the weeds and I trimmed them. Paint, garage doors, yard. Yeah, we did clean up this tree. You'll notice that we took some limbs off of it, which I could have just waited till a great windstorm, but we chose to chop them down with a chainsaw. We did do new garage doors, not very expensive. New light. Yep, we actually did 2. You'll see this one right here by the front door. New fixtures, shutters, dressed it up. Put a little red car in the backyard. Oh my gosh, that is actually my lead maintenance guy's car. New address. Yep, we installed an address, cleaned up the driveway. Yeah, so really on the exterior, we did not go all out. What's up, Sterling? All right, I'm going to keep going because Sterling, I can't hear you. So anyways, a lot of really quick and easy fixes here. You'll notice we actually left the same front door. We just painted it. It was in decent shape. I wouldn't say it was in great shape, but you know, it would have cost us another $300-400 to swap this door out. And every time you can save a little bit of money here and there, within reason, right? Like no one was going to complain that the front door was not brand new. So those are the types of things that we would focus on when fixing and flipping, right? You want to make it light, bright, open, and attractive. And Kim, we actually replaced all of the shutters. These shutters were brown and broken, and these shutters are black and new. They're super cheap at Lowe's or Home Depot. So why should you invest in Utah? Well, first off, I took this yesterday from the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. And we actually had in July of this year, the lowest unemployment rate in the nation. Okay, the lowest. So that's one reason why you should invest in Utah and why you should encourage other people to invest in Utah, quite frankly. The second is we have a very diverse job base. Okay, this is an article from Bloomberg. You can see it was like February of last year, right? We just have a very diverse job base. Here's another reason. This right here is from CAR, California Association of Realtors. I want you to focus on a couple different things. Focus on their average price point in California, okay? Almost $700,000, almost, across California, right? That's taking the highs, the lows, everything. If you look at Utah, we are literally half as expensive as California is, okay? So if I'm looking dollar for dollar and I want to leave a very expensive place, people are coming here from California because things are half as expensive. And guess what? We have basements in Utah and they don't have them in California. So people are actually getting twice the house for half the price. So if you're a native to Utah and you're going, oh my gosh, things are getting so expensive, I can promise you it's only going to get more expensive because nationwide, we are a great value. If you look at the cost of living, Utah is fairly low, right? Which is why we're having such great appreciation. People are like figuring it out. So this is a quick little update just for everyone, because I think we should be all as informed as possible when we're talking to our own clients, but also with us. So right here, this was how many average houses were on the market active over the last 5 years. So you look at this, like we were trending a little bit lower January, February, March than the last 5 years. All of a sudden in April, it's like we shot up versus some years. We were pretty much in the middle of the last 5 years. But since then, we've had a steady decline of how many houses are actually listed on the market, right? This is another reason we're seeing huge price increases right now, huge bidding wars. There's just no inventory. You look at this, we're like 5,000-ish. At any given year, almost every year intersected at just under 10,000. So we're like 50% of what we normally have been just on the supply demand curve, right? Here's the number of under contract listings over the last 5 years. Okay, so we were tracking pretty good until May, and then June, July, August, September, like we're way above average for how many houses are under contract in Utah. And then here's the number of solds. I think this one's super interesting, right? Obviously, we don't have September's data yet, but I'm gonna guess that it's higher than everything else. So it's kind of interesting. Only 5,000 on average sold last month in August, but in July, 10,000 were under contract. So we're seeing a lot of bidding wars and a lot of people tying properties up and then backing out, right? So they have to go back to the market, and then the buyers have to go back to the market. And this is just totally something to be aware of when you're putting your buyers or sellers under contract, is you want to make sure that if you're putting something under, it's going to close, right? So do a little bit of extra due diligence if you're representing the seller. And if you're representing the buyer, please, please, please do not tell them, hey, once you're under contract, we're going to continue to keep shopping, right? Because it's just creating a disparity right now that's really weird in the market. And you don't want to be known as the agent that cancels. You want to be known as the agent that closes deals. So here's why I invest locally versus in other markets, right? I've got friends that invest in other markets, Memphis, Florida. So a couple of points. This was taken from the Federal Housing Finance Agency's website. They release a report every single quarter. This basically shows what the appreciation rates are. So the US on average appreciated 5.72% last year, and it's appreciated 182% since 1991, which is great, right? That's about 30 years. And pretty much had you bought a house anywhere 30 years ago, it would have doubled in value, right? Since 1991. Obviously there's highs and lows. If you look right here, the mountain region, which we are in, we had an average appreciation last year of 7.9%. And then spoiler alert, Utah was number 4 of 50 for, it was like 9% year over year. But since 1991, we're 291%. So on average, we are outpacing the rest of the nation on just appreciation. So right here, this kind of goes over the 100 largest metro areas. And again, this is in a big report. The report's like 80 pages long. If you want to fall asleep, read it. If you can't go to sleep at night, or if you're up at like 3 a.m. with a 4-month-old like I am. So right here, Salt Lake City, Utah, 10% last year. We went up 10%. So if I own a $300,000 asset that's rented and it goes up 10%, why doesn't everyone type in the chat bar what they think my appreciation would be after 1 year of owning a $300,000 asset? Less riots too. Yeah, way less riots. We still have them though, but they're peaceful. They only burn a few cars and only a few people get hurt. Okay, so if we, yeah, they're perfect. So if I own a $300,000 asset, and based on this statistic, if it goes up 10% after 1 year, it should be worth 330%, right? Here's the cool thing though. Check this out. Since 1991, you look at Salt Lake, 423%. Do you guys remember what the average since 1991 is nationwide? was like 180%. And then if you look down here, San Francisco, which is notorious for like ludicrously expensive, like you can't touch anything under $1 million there. Since 91, they have seen a 379% appreciation, right? We are outpacing San Francisco on a 30-year average, right? So what does that tell you? Well, nothing in and of itself, but if you look deeper into it, it's actually because there's a net migration out of California and into Utah, into Idaho, into Colorado right now, right? It's just a better quality of living for people and it's more affordable. So this right here is what can make you extremely wealthy very quickly. So I think someone said in here they want to know the fastest way to make fast money, right? If that's even a thing. It's buy real estate and wait, because that's the easiest money you'll ever make. Who here owned a property that they purchased in 2011 to 2014? I'm going to call on someone. So let's see here. Raise your hand if you owned or if you purchased a property in 2011 to 2014. Anyone? I can't see everyone. Let's see this. No? Well, we'll do a quick case study then. That's totally okay. We did in California in 2012. Awesome. I did. Chad, I'm going to pull you on screen. Chad, what did you buy in 2000, in what year? You're muted. I think if you hold the space bar.
You're still muted, Chad. It actually says you're not, but we can't hear you. Bummer.
Chad.
He's trying.
Hey, why don't you just type it in the chat bar? I'm not great at reading lips. Type it in the chat bar and then we'll go over your case study versus this case study. Okay, so let's see here. 2013, cool. This is gonna be super relevant to you. So right here, I sold this property to one of my clients, right? I made a commission, I made a buck, he got a property, it was great. So sold it in 2014. This was, I think, one of like the last bank-owned properties that I sold. Okay, 140 grand is what he paid. It needed some work. The basement was rough. There was some water damage, some mold. It needed to be fixed, right? But about 15,000 bucks fixed it. So he bought the property, put about 15,000 bucks into it in addition to his down payment, and rented it for about 1,200 bucks a month. Okay, so it cash flowed right off the bat. I think it was like 350 bucks a month after paying a property manager. Phenomenal. It was a home run deal, right? It was even more of a home run deal because I showed him how to do this more creatively, and he actually did not put 20% down. He got paid at closing for this property. And I think he ended up being like $5,000 into this property after all was said and done. So 350 bucks a month for a $5,000 down payment is phenomenal. And you can still do this today, by the way. Fast forward to today, same house. This is a comp that I pulled. And again, it's a little dated. I'm sorry, it's like a month out of date, but it's good enough to let you know. About the same year build, about the same acreage. It did not have a garage as well. About the same square footage. This one had less bedrooms and bathrooms. But value today, conservatively, is 300 to 315. So he bought it in 2014 for 140, and today it's worth 300,000, right? Assuming he didn't refinance. There's a ton of different things you could do here. He could just sell it and, you know, take his 150 grand and enjoy life, right? He could also reinvest it. There's a million different things. Chad, did you get your microphone working? No. Jeff, is he muted?
No.
Just the mic's not working?
Yeah, your mic's not working, Chad.
Saying I'm off mute. Okay.
So Jordy, we bought a couple of those houses. I'd say probably around 2001 for about 70.
Okay.
So doubled to that 2014. And then, I mean, it kind of just shows you those small houses. Those are probably some of the cheapest houses out west now, right? I mean, 275 is probably the 250, 275 is the cheapest you're going to find out there.
Yep. Unless it's, no, it's not working, Chad. So yeah, so look, you guys bought it in 2001. You went through the greatest housing recession we've ever seen in the US, and you come out the other end and it's worth 300 grand, right? And 2001 to 2020, had you not refinanced and just done a 30-year mortgage, I mean, you'd probably owe 20, 30,000 bucks on it, and it would probably cash flow 1,200 bucks a month for you, right? So guys, this is the power of owning real estate instead of just being transactional and brokering real estate. This is where the real wealth is built. You can make a lot of money selling real estate, but the minute you stop selling is the minute you're done. Like, you got to go find another job. So if you own it though, it's going to pay you dividends over long periods of time. And if all you did was got 5 or 6 properties paid for free and clear, you could cover a lot of your living expenses very easily with low hassle. Or you could build a portfolio of 60, 100, 200 properties, right? This is the cool thing about real estate, is you can do just about whatever works best for you. And as a real estate agent, I've been able to do this. It's been great. If you find out what they, meaning your clients, want, and just give it to them, just deliver it to them. If you can find out how to do that for enough people, you're going to end up getting what you want, right? Rather than like, what's in it for me? If you focus on providing value and opportunity for other people as a real estate agent, you can make great money. And as long as you are reasonable in your lifestyle, I'm not saying like don't just go live under a rock. Like, I live a very nice lifestyle, but we live under what I make, and then we invest the difference. And the wider I can make that gap, either by making more money or spending less, I can invest in more and more properties, right? So I'm going to circle back to this because I think it's super important. How much do you want in assets? At what age? Giving you what ROI? So the house that I posted, let's see, where all this one, this is the interior. So I'm going to go through a couple of things here for everyone that's fixing and flipping. What did we do on this property to improve its value? Name 3 things if you can in the chat. New flooring, yep. Countertops, appliances, yep. Got rid of old lighting. Yep. Cool. So cabinetry, Audrey, we did not replace the cabinets. These cabinets were actually in really good shape. And you'll notice here, the hardware was just really weird angles, right? But it was like shaker style from like the 80s or something. So we actually had our painters paint these cabinets, and you'll notice because the hardware holes are in the same place. They're like at this weird, funky angle. And so we replaced the hardware, we painted, we did new hinges and cleaned everything up. And for this house, because it's not like a $700,000 house, I think we sold it for $375 in Woods Cross. It worked just great. Everything was functional. People were happy to have white cabinets, and some people may have cared that they were painted instead of brand new, but to be honest with you, we saved about $1,500 by not swapping these cabinets out. We did modify the layout a little bit, and you can't really see here, but there's a fridge in the way of the, yeah, anyways, we slid this out a little bit and repositioned the dishwasher to be right by the sink, because it just made more sense versus being, it was like way over here on the end of the peninsula. So painted the cabinets, we did new hardware. You'll see, I don't think anyone, staging, yes. Got rid of old lighting. Yeah, we did. So this was a drop ceiling, and we were looking at it, and I was like, okay, do we just demo the whole drop and open this up? What do we do? Because it's weird. I don't like the fluorescent lightings. So what we actually did is we just framed this drop in, removed the fluorescent lightings, framed it in, drywalled it, and then cut 4 can lights in. And then we replaced this dinky little light fixture with one that was less dinky. So like just minor modifications. Oh, and we added a backsplash. Not that that makes a big difference, but just small little tweaks, right? Did new floors, new paint, fixed everything that was mostly broken. And we went on our merry way, made a few bucks. You know, we kept our crew going. And actually, the big reason I flip homes, other than it's really cool to hop on these presentations and go, look at how crappy this house was and look how awesome I made it, right? I really didn't do much other than just design choices and making sure that the project got from A to B. But the profit that we made from this, we've been saving, and we buy rental properties with it. So we'll go and we'll, on average, we'll flip 2 houses, and with the profits we make from the flip itself, I still pay myself a full commission because it's taking me effort to sell it as an agent, right? I take the profit from the flip and I go and I buy a rental property. That's my down payment, right? So what I'm doing is I'm creating a side hustle, flipping houses, that is buying me long-term assets, right? So I'm not going out and buying a Ferrari, buying a Lamborghini, as much as I want one of those. Trust me, my neighbor just bought a Bugatti and it's freaking sick. I'm not going out and blowing it, right? I'm buying long-term assets because eventually I'll buy a really nice car. For now, my truck works. It may have, you know, only 20,000 miles on it, but it's still good. It's still good, right? Not a Bugatti, but it's good. So being vulnerable, I'm going to show you guys what this would look like. So how much do you want in assets? I want $20 million in assets by June 12th, 2030 at a 12% ROI. Okay, so it's got how much you want in assets, at what age, and what ROI. So June 12th, 2030 is when I hit 40 years old, right? So I've got a specific goal, 20 million in assets. How am I going to get there, right? Why am I going to get there? I want to create financial freedom. I don't want to be forced to go and work and do something just because I need a paycheck, right? How am I going to do it? Well, I'm focusing on what's called the stack, right? It's just a strategy. Let's see, I did this 2 years ago. So bought 1 unit, and then the next year I buy 2, the next year I buy 4, the next year I buy 8, 16, etc. Right? I'm focusing on B to C class properties in B areas in Salt Lake County. And I'm focusing on value add properties, right? So let's see. This house right here, I bought at a foreclosure auction, right? This is how you find deals. It was a little bit riskier. I had to drive by it, basically buy it sight unseen because it was occupied. Turns out it was a hoarder house. Way more work than I thought, but at the end of the day, it was a good deal. I paid $225 and it's probably worth $325 a year later. This house right here, I bought from a wholesaler. That was a great deal. I'll never duplicate this. This deal right here, I bought off market from a friend who tied the property up and said, hey, I just can't take this down right now. Are you interested? I looked at it and I said, yeah, I'm interested. I'll buy it. This property was a property that we moved into, owner occupied, and then made an investment after we moved out. And then this right here, it was just totally due to relationships. We stumbled upon a great deal and walked into some instant equity in a new construction Class A property. So there's a ton of different ways to find deals, even in today's market. I see deals every single day. You just have to look, okay? So just to wrap up real quick before we get to the Q&A, you need to sit down and determine what's your next step, right? Once you have your long-term goals and your short-term goals, you need to figure out, okay, what is my next most important step, right? And then from there, action and accountability help us meet our goals. I am a big fan of coaching. I actually pay for 2 coaches, one for my real estate sales business and then one for my investing business. And I just think that having that accountability, even if it's just a friend that you call, once a month to say, hey, where are you at with your goals, is huge. Because if we have to tell someone else, then we're way more likely to do it versus just not taking action, right? And saying, well, I wish I could. So takeaways, what are the top 3 things you've learned? One of my mentors helped me. Anytime you go to do anything like this, I would write down 3 things you've learned and 3 things that you can modify to get better results in your life, right? And then once you know, you have to implement, right? The implementation is probably the most important thing in life in general, I think, but especially in real estate investing and building wealth, because if you can know everything, but if you don't do anything, you're not going to get anywhere. So that about wraps it up for me. Should we go to Q&A? I know we're
Jordy, I just want to add real quick, one connection that you and I both have in our businesses by being investors and actively doing this for our future is it's helped our realtor business as well. Because people see what you're doing and you're doing it for yourself, you're more likely to be able to help them do it successfully than if your hands aren't in the same game, right? Yeah. And so I think a good portion of Lynn and I's business comes from that is because people want to do what we've done. And so if for no other reason, I mean, your own retirement's a great reason, right? I mean, when we were young, it was very, very simple. It was like, if we want to have $5 million in net worth in the future, we need to buy $5 million worth of real estate right now. The funny thing is when you start 30 years ago, like we did, real estate is the best hedge against inflation that there is. So $5 million in 1990 is not the same as $5 million in 2020, right? But so that appreciation that you were talking about and that rent increase and that cash flow, the equity and the position you have in 10, 20, 30 years has the same spending power as that goal you set back then. So that's as simple as it was for us, is if we want this later, acquire it now and manage it till we get there. And it's a shoe-in. I don't have to worry about the stocks. I don't need to worry about the ups and downs. Like you said earlier, you don't wait to buy real estate, you buy real estate and wait. So there's a lot of realtors on the call. Most of the people on this call are realtors. You should be investing. Your realtor business will benefit from that as well. There's a little add on there, what you're saying, Jordy.
Yeah. Like even, I was talking to my neighbors, they just moved in and, they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a real estate broker. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And then, they just start asking other questions. And, somehow it came up that we owned another property and they're like, oh, that's cool. where do you own your other property? I'm like, which one? And like, I only own 6 properties, right? But to them, they're hearing 6 properties and they're like, holy cow. Like he really, it just solidifies that you're the expert in their mind, even if they only want to buy 1 or 2 houses, right? So yeah, I definitely agree with you, Jeff.
Well, like using Chad's example, and I know his mic wasn't working, but the appreciation from just 2013 or whatever. I mean, how many people do you meet or do you come across that did buy a property that really didn't even think it was a concept to buy 2?
Yeah.
You know, when you look at that one home that you live in and what it's done over time, I mean, that's a conversation you have with your clients is, can you imagine if you would have just bought 1 more? What kind of options that would give you today?
It's a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. And Chad just put in the chat that 250K up from 2013.
Yeah. What is that? How much is that per year? So what is that? 7 years?
More than you could probably save from your job.
Yeah. So that's like Chad saved 36 grand a year for 7 years, right? Like what's easier? Having the discipline to save 3 grand a month for 7 years, or buying a property and letting your tenant pay it down while it appreciates 3 grand a month?
Well, guys, I don't want to control the conversation here. There's a lot that I could talk about with Jordy here on the call, but it's 10 after the hour, and just being respectful for you guys' time. Anybody chime in that has any Q&A, any questions that they want to ask? I mean, put in the chat if your mic's not working, Chad. Anybody, feel free to jump in.
It was great training. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully it helps.
You know, and some of you guys will kind of think of something later. Jordy put his email address in the chat, and I just know his giving nature. If you have a question for him later, shoot him an email and ask him a question. Feel free to reach out to Lynn and I as well. But awesome presentation, Jordy. I know I got a lot of value out of it, and I think everybody else did too. Realtor or investor, right? We're kind of double dipping as realtors in the industry. So encourage all of you that aren't investing in real estate to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Brianna just said we can do another training, but she's interested in learning about some creative financing options. That's awesome. That's maybe something that Jordy and I could tag team on a future one.
Yeah.
It's a great arena to learn more about for you and your clients.
Brianna, what are you specifically looking for in creative financing?
Well, I'm curious, when you say you buy these homes, you said you had a hard money lender and you're buying these homes and renting them out. Are you getting a loan for those? Or are you still using the hard money lender when you're renting out your homes? Because it's long term, obviously.
No. So I've got 2 on seller financing. And the other ones, I have bought them with hard money or a bridge loan. So for anyone that's unaware, a hard money loan is just more expensive than a normal loan, but they'll fund it within days, and they're lending based on the asset. So you don't have to go through an appraisal. You don't have to go through just a bunch of different stuff. And it's way more relationship driven than like FICO score driven, if that makes sense. So I'll typically buy it with a hard money loan because I can close quickly because I'm buying a problem property. And this goes for my rentals and our fix and flips. And then I'm going in and I'm fixing whatever needs to be fixed. And then I'm refinancing immediately into a 30-year mortgage, right? So let's see here. I wasn't going to share this, but since you asked, I will. This property right here that's got the blue door, I bought this from a wholesaler. I paid $225 for this property. It's a 4-bed, 2-bath house in Midvale. I bought it last October. You can't see this, but behind me where I took the picture from is where they're widening I-15. So no one wanted this property because there was construction going on across the street. The seller wanted a quick sale, so he sold it to a wholesaler who then, tacked on, I think they made like 7 or 8 grand. But they did not want to close on the property, so they sent it out to a list of buyers. I went, walked through it, liked it. I knew what it would rent for because this other one I own is literally just on the other side of I-15. So I knew what this one would rent for. And I knew what it was worth because I actually just got the appraisal back on this house when I was refinancing it. So I said, I'll buy it. I put down $5,000 non-refundable and I said I can close in 3 days. Well, I could have used my own cash for this had I scrimped and saved and sold everything and just had a pile of cash sitting there. But instead I utilize a hard money lender because they'll charge me typically 2 to 3 points, 2 to 3% of the loan, plus 12% interest while I've got the loan out. So it's a very expensive loan, but I could buy it, close in 3 days, and then I immediately started a refinance process with a 30-year lender that was using Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, just a typical mortgage. And I think it was 21 days later, we closed on the refinance and my new loan amount was $236. Okay, so I financed the points, the interest, and my loan broker's fees on top of my purchase price. And I actually got into this property for $3,000 down.
So then you just have multiple loans though, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though you're refinancing, you're able to get multiple loans. And I guess that's where I'm confused because I'm kind of thinking, okay, 1 loan, maybe 2 to have a second home, but having 5 or 6 different loans, I guess I just didn't think that was possible.
Yeah. So you can have up to 10 from Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac.
Okay, wow, I didn't realize that.
So something really cool is my personal house I have to qualify for, debt to income wise. Well, you have to qualify for these debt to income wise as well. Getting your first one is the hardest, but after you get your first one, it's actually a little bit easier until you hit 4, and then it gets really difficult till 10. But anyways, they'll actually use 75% of the rents or anticipated rents, and they'll calculate that back into your income. So if this property would rent for $1,000 a month, the underwriter would give me an additional $750 in rent or income to offset this mortgage. So what ends up happening on a property like that, it shows I have a debt, not of $1,100, which the mortgage is. It's $150 a month. So I'm just qualifying for $150 a month payment, and they just want to make sure that my debt to income ratio is below 45% and that I've got cash reserves. So you can buy multiple properties. It's just a little bit different. My interest rate is not as good on that property as it is on my property that I own or occupy because it's a non-owner occupied house. So it's a little bit riskier for the lenders, but realistically the difference in interest rates may be 0.5%.
Okay, cool. Oh, that's
So also, Brianna, a lot of lenders' requirements are 20% down or 20% equity in your first 4. And then it typically with most lenders is going to jump up to 25% for number 5.
okay.
That's a little bit of a difference there. Like Jordy just mentioned though, he did it sounds like a rate and term refinance because of his equity spread in the property and he got all his money back.
Yeah,
right? So, I mean, that's how Lynn and I built our portfolio too. And is because we were doing our long-term financing by way of a refinance on a new improved equity value property that we fixed up. So Jordy kind of gave you a little tip there. He's like, he tries to find problem properties. It's harder for investors to go out and buy retail right? And put those down payments down. But when you can force appreciation, much easier to be creative and to work with lenders. And so you just need a good lender and say, okay, what are my options? Take a look at my situation. What can I do? I want to build a portfolio. And if you've got an investment conscious lender, they're going to say, well, here's the rules. You know, whoever knows the rules best is wins, right? I mean, like you just said, I didn't realize I could have multiple loans.
Right.
Well, you don't know what you don't know. And that's what I love about classes like this. Jordy's sharing some things that he's done. It's like, wow, I didn't realize I could do that. I might want to do that. Lynn just typed in the chat too. One of the things we discovered is when we were first buying our properties, we were both on the loans. We were both qualifying for our property. And it wasn't until we got those numbers up that we were going, well, we should have just been doing them in my name, and then we could do the next 10 in your name, because we started hitting some benchmarks where lenders were saying no. So we had to really get creative. And so that's another kind of strategy too, if you can swing it and if you've got the income to back it up, to not stick your spouse on the loan, or, you know, don't put you on the loan with your husband if you don't need to, because that ties up your limit. Does that make sense?
So I have a question about the 30-year. I thought most non-owner occupied was like a 20-year note. How many lenders actually do 30-year notes?
Most of them. You're
Most.
thinking commercial, I think.
Okay.
All our residential loans are 30-year mortgages.
Yeah, and to get around the 10 home max too, I like what you're saying, Jeff, divide it up. But the seller financing, nobody's counting that. So
Mhm.
that's
Well,
where
and typically that's not on your credit report either.
right. So you can get more homes through seller financing.
Yep, for sure. We've done a lot of controlled properties by lease options and seller financing quite a bit.
Yeah, this one right here on the top, I just picked that one up on seller financing. And it was great. I didn't have to qualify. I closed in like 3 days. Gave them cash. They were happy to let me take over their payments for 10 years.
It's all about solving problems. Jordy mentioned it earlier. I mean, he mentioned finding properties with problems, problem properties that he can fix up, but people with problems are opportunity as well, because you can help solve their problem in a way that's not, you know, capitalizing on their misfortune or taking advantage of them, but solving a legitimate problem that creatively that they hadn't thought of before. So this person that Jordy seller financed for, he probably had never even thought of, wow, I wonder if I can get somebody else to make my payments for me.
Yeah.
Until Jordy brought it up.
Well, no, basically it was, hey, what am I going to walk away with? They bought the property not very long ago, so they don't have a ton of equity. They said, well, if we sell, we're going to have to owe money. I said, well, rather than owing money, how about I give you some money and you can go rent a place that meets your needs. And then after a year, as long as I've continued to make your payments, which I will, you can go and qualify for another mortgage, because they just want to see that these payments have been paid. You just have to work with a mortgage lender who knows what they're doing. And yeah, they were like, okay, cool. So solved the problem. It was a win-win-win. My thoughts on wraparounds, they're great.
They're great.
You have a property you want to sell to me on a wraparound?
Yeah, right.
A wraparound, if someone's not interested or doesn't know, it's like if you buy a property and then let's say Jeff sold me one of his properties. Jeff, yeah?
Not a chance.
Okay. But Jeff has an underlying mortgage. If Jeff contracts to sell the property at a higher price, but we're keeping that loan in place, we can do what's called a wraparound. So it's actually called a note and all-inclusive deed of trust. It's almost like if you were to take a blanket and wrap it around yourself, you're just covering one mortgage with a bigger mortgage, right? So it's still in first position, but it includes the one that's underneath it, if that makes sense. Almost like you were wrapped in a blanket. That's why it's called a wraparound. It's just a more creative way to buy properties, which you can't do a ton of them right now, but my guess is in the next 18 months, we're going to see a bunch of awesome deals that you could probably pick up like that.
Yeah, you don't see as many of them in a seller's market because, you know, it's a seller's market. And you were talking about the inventory earlier, and they can sell their home. In this case, his problem was, well, if I sell it and sell the fees to sell it, I'm going to owe some money. So the margin wasn't big enough because he just bought it. So sometimes people get transferred, they lose their job, they need to move, and they haven't built up that equity yet, like Chad did by buying in 2013, right? And so that's just a problem that can be solved. Cool. Anybody else want to chime in? I'm going to log this off. We'll jump back on in just a few minutes. I don't know if any of you are planning on attending the EXP overview, but that's our next class at 1:30. Lynn and I will jump back on and just kind of do the broad angle view of just why we're at the brokerage we're with. So any last questions?
That's it. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys.
Okay, we'll see you
Thanks
guys.
for coming. Thank you, Jordy. Appreciate you. And we'll talk to y'all later.
Thanks.